Hi, we're Heidi and Amaris, and we did our service learning at Jackson Elementary. Today we'll be talking about the social connectedness of our students at Jackson Elementary and how they influenced our own educational narratives. So my service learning is with 4th graders at Jackson Elementary, and I also work as a tutor for 2nd graders at Bennion.
My service learning is at Jackson also with 1st graders.
So some of the concepts that we've encountered in our service learning are deficit thinking, intersectionality, and meritocracy. So with deficit thinking, by definition, it's the lowered expectations of marginalized students, in this case students of color. Especially at Bennion, teachers don't expect much out of students of color because they think that these children aren't capable of certain values such as hard work or they lack the intelligence. Not only do they question their inherent ability, but they also put a limit to their accomplishments and future. And as their mentor and tutor, I'm always aware of when this occurs, and I do my best to encourage them despite the adversity they face.
I've also noticed that a lot of teachers have stereotypes that all Latinos know Spanish, which is not always the case with all students.
And another concept that we've also both encountered at our respective service learning sites is the intersectionality of our students' identities. I remember a particular conversation with this 4th grader named Atea. We were talking about how I was both Chinese and American, and how I spoke Chinese at home and I spoke English at school. And she also identified as Mexican American and how she spoke Spanish at home and English at school. And as we talked it out, I was able to see the thought process of a child beginning to understand the intersectionality of identity and how you can be both, or you can be bicultural.
While I've been at Jackson, I've noticed the intersectionality of the students and how they deal with it and how they label themselves. This has really made me think of my own intersections and the way I define myself and see myself. Most of the students, they're like me, they have Latino parents, but they were born here. I've noticed that they don't cover their identity, they express themselves in their native tongue and are comfortable in the classroom.
Another concept that we have been thinking about is meritocracy. A lot of my students are very low income, with some living in various shelters. As I learned more about these students' home environments, I really understood how meritocracy doesn't work in our society. These kids lack the social and cultural capital to really pull themselves up with a hard work ethic. These kids work just as hard as anyone else, and yet no one can tell me why they were out of shelter and why they didn't have the opportunities that and resources that they should have to obtain a higher education.
Because they are a minority group and because they're not everyone starts at the same place, they are blind to the fact that there is a dominant group and then that they are the minority group. I feel an obligation to help the students to break through the stereotypes and start seeing the reality of their situation, so then they can get help to break through the oppression.
I love my service learning and my job because I need these students as much as they need me. I find that instead of struggling by myself, I find myself more engaged with my community. The things I do aren't just for myself, but also for them. I do it for Paola, for Gabe, for the Isaiahs in schools across the country. I do it for the kids who go home to shelters, who risk deportations, who don't have as many resources to achieve higher education. It changes my perception of education as well as my future career aspirations. And through my service learning and interaction with these kids, I see transformative justice not as something I should do in my free time, but an obligation and a calling. It's no longer, I'll do this when I can, but rather, I need to do this.
This experience has really connected me to my community. It helped with the students who don't believe that they can succeed or achieve a higher education, and also to those who don't believe in themselves.
And that's our digital narrative, or digital reflection, and thanks for watching.